really well. We have a foundation first impressions today. I just still can't resist trying new foundations. I think it's my weakness at the moment. Just looking for that amazing foundation that just kind of performs brilliantly. The foundation I'm reviewing today is this one from Revlon. It's their 2-in-1 compact makeup and concealer. And I feel like I've heard a lot of buzz about this around the YouTube beauty community. Lots of people reviewing it, lots of people seeming to love it. Not so much loving the concealer, but the foundation itself, people are being really quite impressed with. I got mine in the shade 110, which is Ivory, and it does look quite dark. I don't know how well this is showing up on camera, but in real life it is actually quite dark. And that's one of the things that I've heard, is if you go and look at this in a shop, you can't go by the colour that you see because they all look quite dark, whereas when it goes on the skin it's much lighter. So this is the packaging that you get. It's quite a chunky, substantial, compact. It isn't the smallest thing in the world. And in terms of how much product you get 1.3 grams of concealer and 11 grams of foundation. And it opens up here. And I know a lot of people were assuming that you had a really funny shaped foundation, but it is actually just this lift up part with the concealer. And then you get the full foundation there. And then underneath the foundation, there's quite a big sort of recessed area. You get pretty nice mirror and a bit of an odd sponge applicator, which I know not many people have liked using to apply the foundation. I might give it a go. I can already tell that because it's very thin, it's probably not going to feel very comfortable to bop this onto the face. Having done quite a bit of research on this, I've found that there doesn't seem to be a particular preferred method of application. Both Beauty Blender or sponge in general and brush seems to work quite well. So I've got a couple of things to try this with, my usual tried and true things that I apply my makeup with. In terms of things that are going on my skin at the moment, it's freshly washed and moisturised it a little while ago now. It's feeling ready to go. If you're new to my channel, hi, how are you? It's lovely to have you here. When I do foundation test reviews, I don't use a primer. I have various different primers that I could be using, but I just prefer to use the foundation on its own because I think that way you can get a really good indication of its performance. I think even sometimes what moisturiser you use can make a big difference as well. So I like to be really careful with my foundation tests, use a moisturiser that I use regularly so I know really well, and don't use a primer. If a foundation is really promising and I am really liking it, at that point I'll probably retest it with one of my primers just to see if it does any better. But hey, if we can find a foundation where you don't need a primer, well, that would be amazing. But I just think it's a bit of a fairer test, really. In terms of stuff that's on my face, I have hyperpigmentation across my forehead and temples. That's all pretty normal. I did have a breakout a little while ago, which seemed to take forever to heal. I did everything to try and sort it out, and it just seemed to take forever to go away. I had a really horrible lurker on my chin, and that's gone down now, thank goodness. That was really painful. But yeah, not too much going on in my skin at the moment really, so that's good. Good timing to be able to do a foundation test because this is typically how my skin is most days. Maybe a couple of little things to cover up. And my hardest area to cover is my chin area. I suffer really badly with my skin here. I get quite a lot of hormonal spots in this area. I don't tend to get spots anywhere else anymore, other than I've got one somewhere around here just healing. And I have quite dry skin around this area as well, and that's probably due to the fact that I do tend to hit this area pretty hard to try and clear it up, but it's very difficult when you still suffer from quite bad spotty skin when you're in your 30s. I don't think that's particularly fair. But there you go, I will save that for another video, I think. So anyway, let's move you a little bit and we'll pop some on my face and see how it performs. I'm just going to swatch them first for you. So I'm going to go with the concealer first. It feels like a proper old school creamy concealer. So you can see how pale that is. So that's the concealer swatch. Let's have a look at the foundation. Feels quite greasy. Just hold it up for you. Quite an irritating design. Yeah, it feels quite greasy, but you can already see it looks paler where I've rubbed my finger. Looks quite pinky to me. Quite pink toned, which is good because that's what I need. Right, let's maybe try their sponge first. Okay, so here it is, really flat sponge. That's so irritating. Also, I guess I wouldn't normally be holding this up like this if I was going to be doing my makeup. Let's see how the sponge goes. Wow. I think a little bit is going to go a long way. Got distracted with my application and I forgot to leave this side clear, so I'll leave that bit untouched. I'm not loving the sponge that it comes with, just because it feels like there's not enough between your hand and the sponge to stop it from, like, actually, it's not painful, but it just kind of feels a bit brutal. So I think I'm going to put that down. I tried it, but I didn't like it. Now, I'm going to try a beauty blender. I'm not quite sure whether to just put it straight in or put it on my face first. Maybe we'll just go straight in. Okay, so I've got some slipperiest packaging ever. Right, so I've got some on my beauty blender. That is so much more comfortable. It just feels so much nicer putting it on that way. Quite impressed with the coverage of this. I quite like the idea of something like this in terms of the texture, where I kind of imagine that it would be really easy to blend for some reason. Okay, let's see if I can manage to do half of my nose. That's always the tricky bit. Tell you what it kind of reminds me of, and this isn't another makeup, this is just like airbrushing or something, because it just blends super fast. I think you do have to be a bit careful though, because it's starting to look a little bit mask-like, and I haven't really used that much. So I think what you'd need to do is just blend, blend, blend as quick as it kind of goes on. I think when you look up close, it can start to look a little bit too opaque and mask-like, which, you know, if you like that look, great, but I'm always trying to achieve something natural looking. That's the plan anyway. Right, I think we can see a clear difference there. It's definitely evened everything out really nicely. I think the coverage of my problematic area is looking pretty good actually. Normally what I find, because I have quite scaly and scabby skin around my chin area, is foundations cling to it really badly, and it's really difficult when you have quite oily skin, because a lot of the oily skin foundations are obviously quite mattifying, and then it just accentuates that area even more. So I really struggle to get something that delivers good coverage in terms of the colour and actually covering what's there, but also good performance that doesn't make it look too obvious. But I think that's looking pretty good. How does it feel? It feels nice. Doesn't feel tacky at all. I feel like I've hardly used any as well. I mean, I've literally just been dipping the beauty blender into the compact. The packaging is not my favourite. I keep dropping it. I've just dropped it and gouged a bit of it out with my knuckle. So it's really slippery plastic, so that's something to be aware of. I don't think I've heard anyone else mention that. I think colour-wise this is probably a good match. Right, I'm intrigued to try putting it on with a brush, just to see if that makes any difference. My foundation brush of choice is the Zoeva 104 Buffer brush. I love this brush. It's just gorgeous. I'm going to swirl my finger around and I'm just going to dot this, because even when you swirl your finger around you don't actually get that much product off. It feels nice and creamy, which is normally a texture with oily skin that I'd feel quite frightened of, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. It's a bit difficult to know how much to kind of dot around really. Right, let's try the brush. Okay, so that was super fast, but one thing I've noticed, and you'll probably be able to see this side looks a lot more opaque. The coverage with the Beauty Blender was a lot better. The brush was much sheerer, so I think if you were having a pretty decent skin day, you could literally just and do your makeup potentially really fast with this, which the idea of that really appeals to me. So if the test goes well today, and I want to continue using this, then I'm going to have a lot of fun experimenting with different application methods, because that's definitely a lighter coverage. It's not covered everything up quite so well as the Beauty Blender side. You can still see some things peeking through, but I think, you know, if you want something to just even out your skin tone, correct a few little minor things, but just something that's going to be really quick to apply, then this could well be it. So I'm just going to go in with a bit more, as it could be because the Beauty Blender is picking up more product. Okay, so the brush side I'm finding is ever so slightly streaky. If you continue to blend, it kind of does sort that out, but the only problem is I think it's one of those foundations that the more you continue to buff something into the skin, the more you're just kind of moving it around, because it is quite a light textured foundation, so it does move around quite easy. I think the other side of my face has dried down a bit already, so I think just to try and match things a little bit more, I am actually going to do a light layer with the Beauty Blender on this side. Okay, yeah, Beauty Blender is definitely the way to go. I'm hardly picking up any at all. I'm literally just very lightly dabbing the Beauty Blender into the compact. I think it's the texture of the sponge just works really well with this foundation formula, because you're just kind of pushing it into the skin. I'm kind of in a bit of a unique position where I don't think I need to spot conceal anywhere, because it's done such a good job of covering everything, and I don't feel like I used that much. My chin area at the moment is actually looking really good, and that's not something I say very often. I'm going to try the concealer under my eyes, I think. I'm not sure if it's probably the right thing to use there, but I do want to use it just to see how it performs, but I don't really have anywhere. Maybe I could try a bit on that spot there. That seemed to go on quite nicely. Already the foundation is actually creasing under my eyes. But then it is a very creamy foundation, so that doesn't really surprise me. I like the fact that they've chosen a concealer that's a shade lighter. I think for an under eye concealer that actually works really well. I've not got very high hopes in terms of how it will perform in the under eye area, just purely because it's a creamy one. But you never know. You've got to give these things a chance, haven't you? So I think that is everything done. I'm going to put on the rest of my makeup and I will be back in a second once it's set down a bit more and we'll have a look, see how it's doing. Okay, so that is the rest of my makeup done. It did crease under my eyes, which is what I was expecting it to, but we'll see how that goes. It's not looking too bad. I did find that when I put blusher on, it was moving the product around a bit and I ended up with it kind of gathering a bit funny here. But I'm actually quite pleased with this. I'll be interested to see how it wears today. I've not powdered at all, so I will check in with you later and we'll see how it's performing. Hi everyone, so it is the end of the evening. I'm just about to take my makeup off. I am looking super oily, but I'm not actually feeling it, strangely. I did have to block my face earlier on. I've had the foundation on for 10 hours now, and at around the sort of 5-hour mark I just wanted to see, I did look quite shiny but didn't feel all that oily, so I just wanted a blot to see how it fared, and it looked great afterwards. I don't think it's faded at all too badly. The most noticeable thing is the fact that I am really shiny, but in terms of the performance of the actual foundation I don't think it's faded too badly at all really. Even in my sort of most difficult area, the concealer, I would concur with my fellow beauty YouTubers in saying that it's no good. I wanted to test it because obviously it's part of the pack, but it's worn off really badly, and it wore off really quick as well. But the foundation, I'm liking it enough to give it another go. It feels very lightweight and comfortable. My skin, you know, although it's looking super oily, and I've done some footage where I'm right underneath the light in this room, so you can really see how shiny it is, but it's not actually feeling too bad at all from when I blotted about 5 hours ago. So I think for a budget sort of high street foundation, I think it's pretty good. I've definitely tried much worse foundations recently that have been multiple times the amount of money that this one costs you. So I think it's definitely worth trying. Just be really careful when you choose your colour, because if you look in the compact itself, it does look really dark. So what I did was I looked up other people's reviews to look at swatches and comparisons of how the shades actually were, and that really helped me. And I think this colour of Ivory has been actually a really good match. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this. When I try it next, I think I'll try it with a primer to see if that controls the oil a bit better. I think I'll continue to use a beauty blender with it because that did seem to go on a lot better, although I may try the brush again, we'll see. But yeah, I will try an oil controlling primer and a powder as well, just to see if that makes much of a difference. But you know, oil you can kind of get around with using a really good mattifying or oil controlling primer or an oil controlling loose powder or something. It's the coverage that I'm, you know, trying to find the best thing on now, particularly for this area. And from my point of view, I think it's performed really well. So anyway, I hope this review was really helpful for you. It was a really grotty day to test foundation today because although it's August, it's really miserable outside. It's humid, it's drizzled all day, so this has definitely been put through its paces, which is probably why it's looking maybe a bit shinier than normal. I'm so shiny right now. Anyway, I hope everyone is really well, and I will see you again soon. Bye! We have a first impressions video which I am really nervous about. I am just about to go and pick my little boy up from preschool, so I don't have time to rectify this if it goes wrong. Why am I doing this?